Good afternoon, everyone. This is Steve Cangiano. I'm the Director of Product Management with Cmic, and I want to welcome everyone to our webinar titled Cmic Field, the platform for job site collaboration. I'm joined by Joel Kadish, who is our product manager responsible for many of the features that you're going to be seeing today. And we're really excited to see that we have some great attendance today. We did open up the presentation with a quick video that we've put together, kind of highlighting some of the drawing management features that we're going to be showing today. I hope you guys all got a chance to see that. And it looks like we have a few more people trickling in, but we're about to get started. Now, I know a lot of you might be Cmic customers already, but we may have some potential Cmic customers joining us as well that are looking to learn a little bit more about Cmic. So I want to kick off the presentation by giving you a little bit of background about us and what we do. Cmic is based in Toronto, and we focus exclusively on the construction industry. We develop software that we believe is the most comprehensive construction platform in the industry. And I'm just putting a slide up here that shows you a handful of the features that we develop. As you can see, there's quite a few that are listed here. And one of the things that Cmic has always been positioned to is that we offer a very wide variety of functionality in a single platform. But some of the things that make Cmic really unique are the components that I've highlighted right here. Our ability to tie in things like job costing, job billing, financials, and payroll in a single platform is a very unique value proposition that Cmic brings to its customers, and there's a ton of efficiencies that can be gained by doing this. And Cmic over the years has evolved from one platform where you have all these different features and everybody works inside the platform to a platform that's a little bit more open. So we have a whole series of open APIs that are available to our customers that allow them to plug in additional third-party point solutions into the platform. So, if you want to use a different project management system, but you want to use our accounting package, that's okay. You can plug in a third-party project management system. Maybe you'd like to use our payroll system, but you have some unique requirements for onboarding. Well, you can plug in a third-party human resource solution that has a great onboarding package. We also have solutions for that as well, but you're not forced to be using all of these components in the platform. You can pick and choose which ones makes most sense for you. But the nice thing for the customer is that they have the option to be able to select which of these features in the platform they want to use and which they want to go out to market and purchase a point solution. But what's really nice is that when you're plugging all of these solutions into the platform, you enable your admins, your analysts all now have one place to report on all the data that's going on in their company. We have some really nice BI and reporting solutions that are available that can take advantage of all of this information being stored in one place. Now, this is kind of like a 50,000-foot overview of what Cmic does. We're actually going to be focusing in on the project management, or what we market as field, for the focus of this presentation. Now, the agenda that we've prepared for you today is kind of just high level, a few bullet points, but my goal, or for Joel and I, our goal is to really highlight some of the features inside of Cmic Field, which is our project management solution, and highlight some of the features that really benefit from our collaboration tools. So being able to open up your project to upload a drawing set to your project and share it with your subcontractors. We're going to go through some of the examples of how you do that. How you're going to collaborate with your architects on things like Rfis and submittals. We'll highlight some of that functionality. And then last item that we're going to add, a little bit of a different stream, but really important because we've just made some really nice improvements to our meeting minutes program. So we're going to talk about how you can better document these key decisions that are made with the project team and then circulate those decisions or those meeting agendas with the minutes out to all of the project team members using Cmic Field. So a lot to show today. We are going to target about 45 minutes of content. Most of the content is going to be live demo. So we won't have too many slides. You'll be able to see the product as it is and be able to ask questions. And we do ask that everyone put their questions in through the GoToMeeting platform, or GoToWebinar platform, I should say. And I want to make sure that you guys put those questions in the pool or in the questions area, and then we're going to have a moderator go in and pick those questions. The last 15 minutes of the presentation, we'll have a time for Q&A, which will be great. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to see and make sure that everybody is awake and engaged. So we're going to start off with a poll. We are interested in a handful of these questions. We picked 2 of them to ask for the group. So I'm going to throw the polling questions up right now. We're going to start with the first question. Has the ongoing pandemic impacted job site operations for your organization? We'll go ahead and launch that. So I'll give you guys a second or 2 to answer that. A lot of response right now. That's good. So we'll give it another 15 seconds or so for everyone to respond. And then I will publish the results as well. Looks like we have a clear winner here. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. Let me share the results for that one. So you can see we have about 66% saying somewhat impacted, which is, you know, kind of expected. There's going to be some changes to the way things are going to be done and the way things are running. A lot more people working from home. Those in the field, we need to have some structures around, you know, making sure that everyone's working safely. Last question I want to ask is, do you foresee a change in the way that you adopt new technologies, especially field solutions, in the new normal? So as a result of everything that we have going on today with COVID, do you see a change in like your technology requirements and the way you make these selections because of the new normal or the next normal, as we have in the question? So that's an interesting one. I mean, I would imagine that this would change priorities. In fact, you know, remote work is going to be really important. You know, being able to do types of analytics and kind of custom reporting on things that are happening on the job site in real time. Those are all things that will be very important because we may not be able to be there at all times. We still need to know what's going on. So this response, I'm going to stop it now. A little bit more split down the middle, actually. Go ahead and share those. So we're kind of split almost 50-50. So definitely we're going to be, you know, changing the way that we look at our technology solutions, and then there's going to be kind of like a neutral answer where, you know, we might have some changes that'll be there. But anyways, I think it's good to get that information, and we'll definitely take that back to our marketing team and have a better understanding of, you know, what everyone's opinion is on the matter. So we'll go ahead and jump into it. So now that we've gotten everyone engaged and everyone's paying attention, which is a good start, we'll jump into our product demo. Like I said, this is going to be primarily a live demonstration of the product. So we're going to get started on my end. I'm going to talk a little bit about uploading a drawing set and working with Cmic Field. So let me just pull this up here. Perfect. Okay. So a little bit of background about Cmic again for those that don't know. Cmic is a web-based application, also has a really nice mobile tool as well. We offer various deployments, so we can deploy on-prem on your hardware, a private instance of Cmic if you wish. We also have hosted solutions where it would still be a private instance, but we would host it for you. And we also have a traditional cloud deployment where we will structure the software in a per user per month model, and that's definitely becoming one of the more popular implementations over the last 5 or 6 years. Regardless of the deployment method you choose, you're going to have more or less the same experience inside of the application. Right now, I'm displaying to you our field application. I'm opened up my home screen, and I'm working on my JW Marriott Scottsdale project. And you'll see I've put together a dashboard. This is one of our standard project dashboards that gives me some key information about what kind of traction, like how many RFIs I have outstanding, what needs to be answered, how many submittals are late, how many submittals are currently being processed. And this is really just designed to be a sample of the type of information that you can report on our dashboarding solution. It's designed for end users, so you can train your users to create all different types of reporting solutions to really get a good handle as to where you stand on your project. And that's something that we've pushed out as a new product over the last 2 or 3 years or so, and that's become really, really popular. So the first thing that I mentioned that I want to cover today is how I would upload some drawings to my project. Now, customers that are going to participate in this presentation, they may have seen this before, but for those that may not know much about Cmic, I do want to talk a little bit about some of the tools that we have to make that process easier. So in this case, I'm going to be working on my JW Marriott Scottsdale project. That's this one up here. And I'm going to simulate what it would be like to upload some new drawings. So let's say I just got ASI 500 from my architect, and I want to quickly upload those to my project. I'm going to go ahead and grab that sample. I'm going to use one of my demo drawing sets. Go ahead and proceed, and you'll notice that what's happening here is that the program is just asking me to indicate where it can find the sheet label and the page name. So it's going to use that for its OCR in just a second. So once I told it where I can find the page number and the title of the drawing, it's going to go through the entire set, and it's going to extract all of the data points that I just indicated, as well as things like the trade and the revision are all going to be pulled out using the OCR. It also takes this chance to break up the drawing set, so each sheet becomes its own PDF file. And the reason we do that is so that we can slip sheet new revisions in later on. So everything is separated and organized in a way that lets this drawing set be kind of a living, breathing document that we would refer to as the current set that has the latest revision of every drawing sheet that we received. As you can see, once the extraction's finished, you'll see a kind of a thumbnail preview of all of the different areas that the computer saw when it was doing its extraction, and then it also shows you the results of that extraction. So we call this kind of the results grid, so you're able to kind of validate that this is all correct and be able to point out any problems that the OCR may have run into. In this case, the word schedule was very close to A512, so it was kind of caught up and thought that was part of the title, or excuse me, part of the number. So we're going to go ahead and correct that. You'll notice that I can correct this kind of like Excel. I just double click inside the cell, make my change, tab over, and I'm good to go. So it's not a huge set, but I just wanted to show you guys an example of how this would work. Once the extraction is finished and I've validated that these are all the correct numbers and titles, I'll go ahead and link them. And what this is going to do is go back through the drawing set, use those drawing numbers that I just confirmed were correct, and insert hyperlinks for all of the detail and elevation callouts inside those floor plans, and then basically do all that work for me within a few seconds. And if I click on any one of these drawings, you'll see I have a handful of links that have been inserted for me automatically. I can go ahead and test those links, make sure they work okay. I can even insert my own links if something was missed. So if I wanted to create a custom link, I could do that from here. And this is something that, again, makes it very easy for you to extract a drawing set and quickly upload it to your project, right? Now, I've already uploaded this ahead of time just to kind of make things simple for the presentation. But when we jump into the web interface, what I would do is just hit proceed. That would start the upload, and it would shoot everything into my JW Marriott project for me to view. Now, the presentation is going to primarily be focused on our web interface. We have a really nice mobile solution that would be the beneficiary of pushing out all of these drawings. So by pushing out all these drawings, you'll see that I now have access to view them inside of the web interface. I can also drill into any one of the drawings and open up our web viewer. And the web viewer does a lot of the same things that the mobile viewer does, where you can open up your drawing and you can navigate through the drawing set. So this one is a floor plan that I'm showing on the screen now. Just going to let the broadcast catch up. There it is. And you'll see there's a handful of annotations that are already on here. I have some handy navigation tools that lets me keyword search for, some floor plans, or maybe I'm looking for, the second floor plumbing plan or whatever it is. I can quickly find what I'm looking for. I also have the ability to navigate between different revisions, and it makes it really simple for me to get access to my drawing log and look at any of the drawings that might be linked to annotations for things like Rfis. You'll notice in this case, this one happens to be linked to, I think, an RFI. I can drill into it, and you'll see, oh, actually, sorry, this was a punch list item, excuse me. And you'll see that this one was actually drilled right into a punch list, and all that stuff is now linked together. We're going to go into a little bit more detail about this afterwards, but if I think about a process of where I would want to kind of kick off my project, uploading a drawing set's one of the first things that I would want to do to make sure that I have that in place, because things like submittals and Rfis that Joel's going to show later on, that's going to be all tied into the drawing sheets that I have uploaded just now. Now, this is something that's been around for a little while. We kind of first pushed this out with our mobile solution a couple of years ago. We continue to improve and add new features. Lots of our customers are very active on user voice, which is great, and that's an opportunity for them to suggest new features. And we're actually having an upcoming new release of our mobile application in October, so we're really excited to ship you guys some great new features. Drawing management was a really big part of that, so we're excited to show you that in the fall. Now, once the drawings are in here, I wanted to talk a little bit about how we would invite these collaborators to start sharing and working with things like Rfis, submittals, and drawings. And that's a really big part of a set of features that we rolled out called Cmic Collaborate. And the Collaborate system is a solution for a problem that some of our Cmic customers were experiencing, where we have customers that have their own systems, and they have their own URLs and their own unique username and passwords. They're not using the cloud version, and they want to make sure it's really easy to kind of point everyone to one location, so point all of their collaborators to one location and make it easy for them to get into their projects and start working. So think of Collaborate kind of like a phone book, and this gateway feature that I'm showing you here, this gateway feature allows me to publish a project to our Collaborate system. And in the Collaborate system, that's now my single point of entry for all of my collaborators. So if they've used Cmic before with another contractor, they're still going to the same place, and they're going to see that new project that you just published. They don't have to worry about what URL to go to. They don't have to worry about configuring their mobile app. They don't have to worry about managing their password and all that stuff. That's all handled by this gateway feature. And the way that this would work is that you would take your project, like my JW Marriott project, and you would publish this project to Collaborate and select all of your team members that you'd like to invite to collaborate on this project. Once you've invited them, that's pretty much all you need to do as an admin. You don't have to communicate with them one-on-one. All of the email invitations get sent out automatically. And what the interface is going to look like is the external collaborators will get an invitation like this, and they're going to we're going to let them know that they've been invited to this Westin Savannah Harbor project, and whether they're on the mobile app or whether in the web, they would just click this link, and they're now able to log in to Collaborate. Now, this user has already set up a Collaborate account. It's smart enough to know if they've never used Collaborate before, it would prompt them to create an account on their own. You don't have to be a part of that process. That's something that is all handled by the system. They can even administer, if they've forgotten their password, they can handle the password reset all here. These are all little things that were, all could be done a long time ago with Cmic, but it was very manual. So these are all things that we've automated using this Collaborate tool. And really the beneficiary is going to be all the customers, especially their admins. They're no longer going to have to do this extra work to invite a couple hundred people to collaborate on a project. That's all automated for them. So I'm going to simulate logging in as this collaborator to give you an example. And when the collaborator logs in, they're brought to a very simple interface that shows them all the projects that they've been invited to, right? So I've been invited to that Westin Savannah Harbor project, Liberty Village Tower, facilities upgrade. Now, as a collaborator, as an external user, I have no idea what systems these are all being hosted in. I don't have to care. This GH5 project could be on an on-prem system, and that's being hosted in Colorado, and this system is being hosted in the cloud. This one is an on-prem system that's being hosted in New York. They're all different customers, but they've all been invited to these projects so that the external collaborator, the sub of the architect, doesn't have to care about this stuff. This is a simple phone book for them. And okay, I want to go into my Savannah Harbor project. I just click the link and I get taken into that project, and I can start collaborating right away as that user. I don't have to go in and do any extra steps. And that's really the big takeaway for the end users is that they have this simple interface. They have one password. They go in, they click their project, and they're good to go. And that gives them access to collaborate on anything that your admins have given them privileges to see. And that's a really important factor. So I'm going to kind of show you, I'm logging in right now as a subcontractor, and I have kind of a limited menu. So I can only work with like Rfis and submittals and documents, and maybe not all the document folders, maybe just a handful of them have been given to me as something that I can access. All of that stuff is controlled by Cmic security. So your admins can say, you know, this person should only have access to drawings. They can't edit an annotation. They can only view them, or maybe they only have access to submittals but not Rfis, or they can see the contact directory but they can't edit or create new ones. All of these things are controlled based on the role that you give this collaborator. Again, you create the roles once and just keep applying them. It makes it really simple for you to invite a new user without having to do too much setup, okay? Now, I want to take you through a scenario that's actually going to be a nice handoff to Joel in this case. One of the most common things that we want to collaborate on subs with subs, aside from drawings, is we would want them to produce submittals for us, right? And then ultimately, we'd like these submittals to go out to our architects, and hopefully they can approve it in the system as well. So we're going to talk about some options that are in place to do that using Cmic Field. So just to kind of orient ourselves here a little bit, I'm currently logged in as a subcontractor, and I have been assigned 3 new submittals that I now need to produce something for. So this is something that is a really handy feature. You'll notice at the top, it's actually highlighting these submittals for me to let me know that these are new submittals that need my attention. So I can, I can click sort this log if I prefer, and I can sort it by due date. I can, organize by status, all standard operations that you would expect. But this is a nice feature that when something is new and needs my attention, it's going to get put right at the top, and we're going to put a nice little banner on it that says new, so I know as a sub that this is something that I need to look at. And the way that works is that banner will remain until I get into the record. And once I'm in there, it's going to tell me that I need to do something by August 19th, 2020. This is our submittal program. Now, the level of access that I have, what privileges I have, all this stuff, as I mentioned, can be controlled by the role that the subcontractor has when working with submittals. In this case, I've given my sub access to see the full submittal record. They can see who is going to be responsible for the submittal and the due dates that are established based on when I need to have this particular item on site. So this allows me to account for any fabrication and delivery lead times, if applicable, that need to be taken into consideration when I set the due dates of when all these things need to be done, right? So as a sub, I can't mistake that I need to do something because I got this banner that just keeps following me around as I'm scrolling through the screen. So I need to produce a product data sheet for this HEPA air filter unit A. Okay, so I know it's due on the 19th. I'm going to be a little proactive, and I'm going to go ahead and submit that document early. We have a handy kind of drag and drop interface that's been added in some of the more recent versions of the system. So I can just grab a handful of documents and drag it kind of right up on the screen, and then it uploads that way. If I prefer, I can go ahead, just grab a file explorer like I normally would, and I can navigate this way if that's easier for me. But I've now uploaded my due document. It's been flagged as new. We're trying to make sure that it draws attention to people that are working on this submittal, that they know that this is a brand new document. There could be many files that are being added and collaborated on at any given time. So being able to pick out and highlight those new files is really helpful. I can also quickly preview the file if it's something that I want to just quickly review. You saw this viewer being used a little bit earlier. This is one of our PDF viewer and markup tools, same one that we use for drawing management. So if this sub wanted to like particularly call out an area and highlight some text, or maybe add a note for me, right, saying, hey, please look at this. These are all things that they can do right within the browser. Now, if they prefer and they're more comfortable, they can do this ahead of time in Bluebeam and just upload that file. But again, it's nice to have this option to do all this within the browser. I'm gonna go ahead and leave a note so that everyone knows what's going on. I'm sending this over to Joel. I'm gonna say, please see attached. This is what you need. And go ahead and save that. So I've done everything I need to do. I've uploaded my file, I've made my notes. I don't have to do the notes, by the way, it's all optional, but I'll go ahead and give that a note, and I'm gonna say that this is now done. So what this has done now is this has kind of transitioned the submittal to the next step. So if you look, ball and court has now transitioned over to Joel. I no longer have this header in the top of the screen telling me I need to do something because my job is done. And you'll notice the timeline has been updated, showing me that I was on time. I actually finished my stage early, and it's reflected here in the reviewer table. And it's even actually projected that we might be a little early on this submittal because I did mine early as well. So it's using these lead times to figure out, okay, well, if we only need 3 days between the 12th and the 17th, those are working days, by the way, that's just gonna be, okay, no problem. That's what our new due date could be. And these are all things that help us try and forecast how we're doing on our submittal. The same thing would be true if we were late. It would project how late we're gonna be and how much float that's gonna be chewing up if we want to project out into the future. So now that I'm finished, this is something that Joel needs to take care of. And this is a really good opportunity for me to hand this off to Joel to kind of pick things up where I left off. So just a quick reminder of where we are. I'm a subcontractor that just contributed a product data sheet, this guy right here, on my HEPA air filter submittal. And Joel is now going to kind of take on the role of a project engineer on the GC side. He's going to review the submittal, make sure everything makes sense, and then he's going to forward it off to the architect for approval. So we're going to transition here. I'm going to ask Joel to share his screen. He should be showing his in just a moment. And Joel, you can do a quick audio video check with me as well when you're ready. Yeah. So we're not hearing you yet, Joel.
There we go, 1 second.
Okay, we can hear you and we can see your screen.
And you can see my screen, okay, perfect. Awesome, thanks so much, Steve. And in the spirit of collaboration, I'm glad we can work together on this presentation. So yeah, just a quick recap. We are now logged in. I'm the general contractor here. I'm looking at my JW Marriott project that Steve was just working on. And if I go into my submittal log, you'll notice that right at the top of the log, as Steve was mentioning, is that submittal that he just submitted some documentation on. So again, that's indicating to me that this is something that I need to take a look at. It's brand spanking new. So I'm going to jump in here and see what Steve, or rather Mark, has submitted for me. So logging in here, right, I get the same kind of banner that that Steve was just demonstrating, letting me know that my, some action is required on my part to move this thing along. It's nice to see that everything's looking on to be on time, and maybe even ahead of our initial schedule. So that's really great for me as the general contractor, that maybe the project manager, to see where things are at. Nice to see that things are moving ahead of schedule, which is great. So I'll take a look down here, maybe look at the notes. Steve, Mark, I guess, wants me to take a look at the attached document. So I can quickly pop that open here and see what he's asked me to take a look at. So, looking at this document, maybe this isn't the HEPA air filter that I was expecting. So maybe I want to read that back to Mark to say, hey, maybe take another look at this. I'll be generous in this case because I know Steve's just pulling in files here to demonstrate uploading documents. But let's say I take a look at this and everything looks good, everything looks clean. I can maybe mark up a few additional areas that I want the architect to take a look at using the same tools that Steve just demonstrated. And once I've completed that, I can say, this looks good. And then I can pass this record along to my architect. And again, just pointing this out here, that as I input a response into this workflow reviewers component, it's going to be updating the schedule based on the times and statuses that I'm putting in here. So that's a nice way, again, to just sort of track who's doing what at what stage and sort of when things are taking place. So if I go ahead here and I say, let's say approved, and I will complete my review. And then this record will then get kicked off over to Fred Brooks, who is my architect. And just once again, to show sort of how this works, here I am logged in as my architect, Fred Brooks, as part of the collaboration portal, logging in there. And again, here we see again, brand new record for me, Fred Brooks, to take a look at. And we'll see that all of the progress that has been made up until this point is being shown in the timeline here. And in fact, the due dates are also being updated based on the lead times that we're giving our architects and our subs and our internal contacts to review these records. So making sure that, if there's additional time, we're taking full advantage of that additional time that has been given by people, inputting their data and approving records as we go along here. So that sort of wraps up in terms of what we wanted to demonstrate for submittals, and using sort of this kind of workflow reviewers component to sort of push things along, tie things out on the schedule, and really create some deeper and cleaner insights for how these processes move along. What I'm going to jump into next is RFIs, and this is again what I'm going to be working with here is an RFI that's already sort of been created. We have Mark Johnson, my handy subcontractor, who's got some questions for me about the ceramic wall tile, and he's asked me a question. He's uploaded a document, a particular drawing, in fact, with a question here about the wall tile, and I guess the style of the wall tile that's going to be used here. So just like we had in submittals, we're going to have the RFI being sent to the general contractor. And again, just like in submittals, we have that new RFI record being populated right at the top of our log here for the general contractor to review. And if I, as the general contractor, decide that I need some additional internal folks to take a look at this, because it seems like there was some discussion about what the style of the tile is going to be, and maybe I wasn't privy to that conversation, want to have a few other people take a look at that. I can add some additional people onto this record to take a look at what the question is, and see if we can get some clarification on what needs to be done with this particular question. If it needs to be routed off to the architect and put in their court, we can also redirect or forward on this RFI to those individuals. But again, a similar sort of interface that we have with submittals, where we can route important information to the pertinent people at the appropriate times, and really get those get those questions answered, and make sure that everything is going according to plan. The other thing that I wanted to sort of draw your attention to here is the way that we, tying this back to the drawings that Steve had uploaded at the beginning of this presentation. One of the really handy features here is the ability to relate those callouts or those annotations on the drawings to specific records. So for instance, here we actually have an annotation on a drawing. We have this this RFI that's specifically calling out a particular area of a particular drawing, and it's going to this related objects tab brings me directly to that called out area on the drawing sheet. So again, just a really nice way that we're sort of tying all of the different aspects of CMIC, the drawings and all the records, all together to really paint a nice clean picture of what the issues may be, and then working those through the program to some sort of resolution. Speaking of resolving issues, I know meetings tend to be the hotbed of a lot of discussions about issues. And I'm not going to do a extremely deep dive here on meeting minutes because I want to save some of the good stuff for our upcoming webinar next week on meeting minutes. But what I did want to show today is just a high-level overview of some of the nice new features that we've added into the meeting minutes program. So those of you who are familiar with CMIC's current meeting minutes program, it is a little bit static. We have sort of the view and edit modes. What we've done here with the new meeting minutes program is added in some really nice workflow to meeting minutes to sort of add a more natural feel to the program. So this is an active meeting, and I'm going to take you through sort of an active meeting and then into the next meeting. But what you'll see here is a nice clean way to take attendance, mark people as present or absent, and also capture any guests that aren't specifically project contacts. Maybe they're one-off people that happen to be in your meeting, but that you want to make sure that you have a record of them being present. It's a really nice way to quickly take attendance, add any guests that may be there, and begin your actual meeting. Now, this is a tracked meeting, which means that it's a follow-up to a meeting that that happened maybe a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. And so one of the nice things about our new sort of active version of meeting minutes is that we can see some of the historical minutes that have been taken with respect to this particular item. So what we've done here in the agenda section is we've made things a lot more flexible, a lot more dynamic, giving people really the information that they're looking for and that they need to have those important discussions in a timely manner, and you're not sort of scrambling through past notes to see who said what. All of that information is there. If there are particular sort of action items, issues, or changes that were discussed, all of those records that exist maybe in other areas of CMIC can all be tied back into the minutes and the discussion that is happening on the day of the meeting. So this is some really nice way to kind of tie out all of those discussions to things that actually happen on your project and maybe in the field. Other minor things that are more for the delight of folks are things like being able to easily move your agenda items around. If I wanted to talk about my mission statement before the introduction, so be it, I can do that just by quickly toggling these buttons here, these topics. If I needed to add additional items into my meeting on the fly, something came up and we really want to talk about the new intern, then we can do that. So really handy features for doing things like that. Really easy to move these items around. So if this item doesn't actually belong in the introduction, maybe that belongs in the mission statement, I can easily drag and drop these items into those other areas. So just to quickly demonstrate that. So really making this program a lot more flexible, which is, I think, will be very handy for a lot of folks in their meetings in the future. So just to, again, demonstrate this really quickly, welcoming the new team members, we want to welcome Tom, and we'll add that note in, and I'll leave that as my only minute for this particular meeting. But when I go and I actually close that meeting out, as I will do now, I'll get a nice sort of review of everything that was in the meeting. We've actually built out a brand new report for this new meeting minutes program, which again, I'll be showing a little bit more in detail next week. But just again, showing the tie out with the current meeting minutes and what is sort of past items that we've discussed on this particular item. Really nice way to sort of close out all of the conversation that happens in those meetings, and making sure that they get action in the field and taken care of in an appropriate time. So that is everything that I wanted to demo for you guys today. I'm seeing that my screens are all flipped and backwards, but that's okay. I think what we'll do now is probably open things up to questions. And Dana, if you actually have the slides open, or maybe Steve, if you've got
So I
those open.
actually have the question slide up, and
Okay, perfect.
so we're all set there. So I think we're going to have Nitin actually go pick some questions out from GoToWebinar. There's actually quite a few. I took a stab at answering a couple quickly, but Nitin, why don't you pick a few, and we'll fire away for the next few minutes.
Sure. Thank you, Steve. And thank you, Joel, for that great presentation. And like Steve just mentioned, lots of questions have come in while you were presenting. And although we may not have the time to go through all of them today, we will make sure that a copy of the full Q&A is made available to our audience for later consumption. So let me just quickly go through some of the questions. The first one is, can you compare revisions / overlay to see what was actually changed?
So I'll take that one. Yes, you can. This is a feature that's been built out into our mobile application. And now we have had quite a few requests to bring this into the web as well, and then also to kind of enhance the overlay to make it a little bit more advanced so it handles like pivots. So basically like kind of picking 3 points and pivoting on those 3 points. For those that have done it quite a bit, you kind of know what I'm talking about. So that is something that we're actively working on improving, but yes, there is a feature for overlay inside of mobile, and we're looking to expand that further.
Thank you. The next question is, I understand from an existing user, and they are asking if whether, pre-R12, they could export the drawing log into an Excel spreadsheet, and this was a pretty useful feature. Are there any plans to, add that the export to Excel feature, back in the near future?
Joel, do you want to take that one? I know you worked on that.
Yeah, so we do actually have that feature available in all of our logs now. We actually added some additional functionality with the export feature because of the new log component and the dynamic nature of it, which allows you to sort of pivot on different information, group information by things like a status or a due date. We've actually enhance that export feature to allow the export to inherit those properties and those groupings. So the short answer is yes, and hopefully it's going to be an even more enticing experience than what you may have been used to.
And that was released, that's probably going to be on 12.2, right, Joel? On patch 12.2? Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why you might not be seeing it now, is because you might be on 12.1, so 12.2 is just around the corner. And I will just kind of add one clarifying factor: both MIP reports, MIP Excel reports, and this new feature that Joel mentioned are both available in 12.2.
Thank you. The next question is, can we limit, let's say in Rfis, which Rfis a subcontractor will see? Example, if we only want them to see Rfis that pertain to their company and not all Rfis in the project.
Yeah, so there is a project role flag called restricted view for RFIs. I'll have to double check, but I believe that flag will allow them to see all RFIs that are addressed to them or to their partner. And for those that aren't Cmic users, you have a contact, and a contact belongs to a partner or a company. So if it belongs to their company, they should see it. I can double check to confirm, but I believe that would be the best path forward, to not allow them to see all RFIs, but allow them to see things that pertain to their company or they've been CC'd on.
Okay, thank you. The next one is about submittals. Can we limit which responses are available at different review stages? Because
yes.
certain statuses close the submittal.
Yeah, so the short answer is yes. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you either. I didn't.
No,
so
no
that's
problem.
actually something that came up as well. That was some feedback from some of the early users of submittals. So what we've done is we've implemented some logic. Again, for those of you that are using Cmic, you'll know that there's a submittal name, there's a submittal status name, and the status maps to a class, right? So you have a class like received and sent and forwarded. So what we've done is we've actually limited the drop-down menu for the complete review button. We've limited that based on the stage of the submittal and the user who's entering the status. So like external users are limited, whereas internal users can select whatever they want. So that's going to give you the control to make sure that you can control which statuses can be selected at what stage of the submittal by external users. And that was done a little while ago. I'm going to say maybe in 12.1, but definitely in 12.2 for sure. But I think that's already in place in 12.1. You just need to make sure that your statuses are mapped to the right classes.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, how do you upload a sketch versus an entire page? So architects issue far more sketches than replacing entire drawings.
So what we would do is we would leverage the ability to link an annotation to a document record. So you would upload the sketches. Let's say you'll have a folder called sketches, like you have a folder for construction drawings or shop drawings. Maybe you put the sketches into shop drawings, that's fine. But basically you'll have another folder that you use to store these things. You upload those, as you wish, and then where you want to post them in the drawing set, you would put a stamp or any kind of annotation. You can even create custom stamps in the web, like maybe you have a stamp called sketches or you have a stamp called shop drawings. You'll put that in the corner or the particular location on the floor plan that you'd like that sketch to be available, and then you can link the document record, which would be the sketch. You can link that to the annotation, and you can link many sketches to the same annotation if you want. So I've seen customers like they'll put shop drawings on a stamp and they'll put that in the corner and then link a bunch of things to it. Or you could just link one document to one annotation. It's up to you.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, when the submittal shifts to a new person, do they get an email or a text notification, or do they need to log into the system to view that?
Yeah, so there are email notifications when the submittal changes responsibility to you. In that setup, each user has an email notifications tab on their profile, and in that tab there's a bunch of flags, where one of them is basically titled as modification. So if you checked off the modification flag for submittals, when a submittal goes from somebody's responsibility to your user, you're going to get an email notification. You can also say, if I'm CC'd on a submittal or I'm listed anywhere in the submittal, I want to get notified if something is new, or I want to get notified if there's an attachment or a note. So you can be pretty specific about when you get the emails, but most of the time what I've seen people do is they'll check off that modified flag, and when that's checked, they'll get a notification when it's their responsibility, and that allows them to drill into the system and then they can do their thing. Obviously, dashboards are also very helpful as well to see everything that's in your court, but the email notification is also a good option. No text yet, but that is an interesting idea. Maybe we can jot that down.
Thank you, Steve. The next question is, can you upload specs to CMIC like you did with drawings?
So yes, you can. It is a feature that we originally debuted about 18 months ago. I think it was about 2 Connect conferences ago. We kind of showed off a feature that we had built out using the same OCR technology that we built for drawing management to kind of have like a straw man's version of a specification extraction and upload tool. So it is available. We've left the beta label on it. It's available in ECM Explorer, so you can go ahead and try it out yourself. All the versions that are out there now should have it. And you can give it a try. It's going to allow you to break up your specification. So it'll break up the spec document if it's like 1,500 pages. It'll break it up by spec, and then it will do its best to try and pull submittals out of the specification. It's still a little bit of a work in progress, full disclosure. It is something that we continue to need to improve. It is a little bit basic, but it might serve your purpose. So I certainly encourage you guys to check it out. No additional costs or anything to you guys. And it is something that we would like to improve in the future. It's just not something that we've made a ton of changes to recently.
Thank you. The next couple of questions are related to meeting minutes. So the first one is, when will the new meeting minutes be installed for public cloud clients?
So maybe I'll take this one. So the new meeting minutes program is going to be released as part of patch 12.2, which we're anticipating later this month. I believe the cloud install of that patch is set for about a month after that, so sometime in September. I'd have to double check to get a more accurate date on that, but that's the anticipated date for the cloud release of the new meeting minutes program.
Okay, and the next one is, in terms of meeting minutes, how would a user tickle or nudge the attendees so that they know they are ready or they are done?
I'm not sure what is meant by that. I'm assuming that what's sort of what you're getting at is like, how do you sort of communicate those meeting minutes to the attendees after the meeting is closed? So like I mentioned earlier, we do have a brand new report that's specifically built to really capture everything that we're capturing in the meeting itself. And that report can be printed sort of quote unquote directly to an email that can be sent to all of your attendees. And that would be sort of like the way to, I guess, tickle the attendees and let them know of what sort of has transpired in the meeting.
Okay, thank you. The next one is, how do you add a page to Submittal sent by a contractor as engineer to add for review and to add for review for the architect?
So the question was, can you just repeat the first part of the question, Nitin?
Sure. How do you add a page to a submittal sent by the contractor as engineer? And the second part of the question is to add for review for the architect.
So you add a page to submittal. I mean, I'm assuming that they add a page, like add an additional document to the submittal. So you can add a document at any time as the project manager, project engineer, like an internal user. And then I'm going to assume probably the best course of action would be to create a new cycle. Again, I'm not 100% sure if I'm answering this correctly because I maybe need a little bit more context. But if I had to answer, I would say you can upload a new photo, or excuse me, a new document at any time. That's fine. And then if you need to have another review done by those team members, I would start another cycle and have that new attachment there.
Thank you. And then I think we have time for just a couple of questions now. So the first one of those is, do you have an integration with Autodesk BIM 360 for those of us that use this platform?
We definitely have, there's a couple of features that we've integrated with BIM 360, including their BIM viewer using Autodesk Docs. I'm not familiar with all of the details of the scope of integration, but if you, maybe we can try and get this person's contact information and we can put you in touch with our VP of integrations, and he'll be able to kind of give you a bit of an idea of what's been built already and what's possible. Because we have a kind of an open suite of APIs, it's pretty common for customers to come to us and we would actually build something based on their requests. So we definitely want to put you in touch with him, and he'll be able to let you know what we can do for you.
Okay, and the last question is about Collaborate that you presented about, Steve, during the first part of your presentation. And the question is, does whoever I invite to Collaborate need to have a paid version of the software, or is this like a free version of the interface for those outside the company? So
I would say in like 90% of cases, this would all be included. It would be a free account for this external collaborator. Licensing is a little bit different if you are using, you have your own instance of CMIC versus using our cloud product. I believe all of our standard cloud licenses do include collaboration. And if you have a collaboration license, that means you can have unlimited external users collaborating in your system. So I would say 9 times out of 10, maybe even 9.5 times out of 10, you would fall in that category, and you would have a collaboration license included with what you've already paid with CMIC, and you'd be able to invite these users for free. But I would need to know a little more about what kind of customer you are to be sure, but I would say it's very likely that it would be included.
Okay, thank you, Steve, and thank you, Joel, for patiently answering all the questions. And for our audience, I believe that we trust that this was a really good investment of your time, and you also go back having learned something new today. Please know that a recording of this webinar will be made available to you shortly. And as Joel mentioned a couple of times, don't forget to tune into our meeting minutes webinar next week. That's on the 19th of August. You can register for that by going into the events and webinars section on our website, which is cmicglobal.com. And that's it from Team CMIC today. Bye and have a nice day.